Clutter can be your absolute worst nightmare when it comes to making really good looking renders. Clutter doesn't always have to mean something bad. Quite often, the clutter is a mix of really cool details that I want in my design. But sometimes you need to figure out how to make sense of all the clutter. You can do that by learning a system of visual hierarchy. Sometimes you're not putting the wrong details in your image, they're just not organized in the best way. And using a simple system of visual hierarchy can take a really visually cluttered image and turn it into a beautiful, balanced image. So today I want to show you a really cool system of visual hierarchy, and I'll show you how I used it in a set of animations that I created this week. So let's start with what this visual hierarchy system is. You need to take all the details that you are going to put in your image and divide them up into primary, secondary, and tertiary details. Once you're able to figure that out, you can start to implement them and make really balanced images. Here's what I mean. Look at these two images. Both look really, really cool, but one of them just feels a little bit more balanced and a little bit more pleasing to look at. The one on the right has a lot of really cool details, but the focal point in the middle is just as visually cluttered as the space around it, making it feel really busy with no space to give your eyes a break. Now, the image on the right is just as detailed, but as you can see, the details and the shapes feel a little bit more intentional. You can see we have this one large shape in the middle, quite a few medium-sized shapes that kind of give your eyes a break from the busyness, and then you have all those really, really small details scattered around the image as well. One thing to look at in this render and this render that I made is there is a good chunk of space dedicated to large objects that give your eyes a place to rest. Really busy, cluttered images can be really cool, but after a while, they have a strain on your eyes, and having a place for them to rest with larger and medium-sized objects can help you appreciate the smaller details. Now, how can you implement the system in your own renders? Let's look at a couple of these renders that I just taught on Patreon and show you how I implemented these ideas in these, because there is a lot of details that I had to put in them. This render here is actually a good lesson in applying this system, but with really, really simple use cases. Sometimes to get a really well-balanced scene, you just need to start simple, just with some simple shapes. So start with your main idea. In this case, it's going to be particles that take the shape of a system of hexagons. Once you have that idea, in this case, the hexagons established, you can look at your scene and try to feel out what is missing. Here, I decided if I just duplicate the system, lower it down so that you have a lot more details below the main focal point. And then so that they don't draw so much attention, I made the object smaller and the material a little bit darker so we still can look at that main layer up top, but it does show a much more full scene that solidifies that hexagonal pattern even more, but in a more subtle way. And then I felt like it needed a little bit more fun in the lighting, so I added some volume, added a light, and the scene really felt completed at that point. It's a very, very simple scene, so applying visual hierarchy, large object, small object, sometimes doesn't need to be that complicated. Now, this render right here is a great example of having a lot of detail in it, but we're gonna learn how to make sense of it and make a really cool image. So like I said, in this image, I started with the big objects, the medium objects, and then all of the small details to finish it out. Now, it could still look cool if we just want to have large details and small details, or we can just do medium details and small details. Both don't entirely look that bad, but I personally think having a well-balanced system of all of those details makes this image look really cool. So to make this, I started in geometry nodes and modeled the big blocks. Once I had those figured out, I was able to give them a little bit of wireframe detail. And then I immediately went into adding a solid reflective floor. After that, it made sense to add a little bit of roughness detail to the metallic surface. That's able to let the light interact with it and really influence my decisions after that. But it felt like the floor and the blocks, they still needed a lot more detail to make this scene feel large. So on all of the blocks, they got a subtle Voronoi detail in them. And with a tree of wave textures and Voronoi, I was able to add tons of small detail in the color and the brightness of the floor, making this really, really cool looking scene. At this point, I had a good variety of big details and small details, but to balance it out, I was able to add some smaller blocks and immediately it felt so much more balanced. Last thing I added was some small emission and bump details to the blocks, and it was totally done. One thing you'll start to learn as you get better at making images is being able to look at your scene and feel there's definitely something missing here, but learning how to go through that and answer that question will really help you be more efficient in making really beautiful images. Now, I want to lightning round a few of these renders and talk about these as well. The initial idea was to make this hologram style looking city in this animation, but at this point, it just felt really cluttered. I didn't entirely know what to do. And I landed on using a Voronoi pattern to cut lots of gaps in the city and actually makes it look a little bit more interesting, gives the scene some room to breathe. And I was able to add some smaller dot details and some other things in there to make the scene feel really nice and broke up that scene that kind of looked like an aerial view of New York and just made it feel a little bit more balanced and breathable. The point of this scene was to teach how to use curves and make them kind of look a little bit more sci-fi and use Voronoi to manipulate them, but I wanted the scene to look really nice and balanced. So I started with the small curves and made a lot of them, broke them up a little bit and added some light to them. And then I added a few details on the floor with that square looking Voronoi pattern. But to me, there was something missing. And the answer to that was a very large set of curves as well on top of them to really balance out this scene and make it look really beautiful. And I absolutely love this. It's a great wallpaper. It's a great asset for a larger scale environment. It's really, really cool. So there you have it. Hopefully this helps you understand some visual hierarchy. And like I mentioned, all these animations I talked about are available right now on Patreon and you can learn them all. And this animation specifically, I will be posting on YouTube here for free in about a week or so. So you can subscribe and look out for that. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope this helps you elevate your own work and make some really cool designs that you're really proud of. And I'll see you guys in the next one.